Hey y'all, happy Monday. I know I'm in a different spot today than the past couple of videos that you've seen. It has been, I know like y'all are like seeing these videos in like correlation and in like a certain time frame, but it has been a month actually since I've recorded a video. It was August 17th when my last one came out. So I am trying to remember like all that I've told y'all. I know that we talked about the tree, we've talked about the like covering of everything. So I don't know if like I shared when my mom came out of the room, she was like, it's gone, it's gone, it's gone, it's gone. My dad had gone upstairs to his and her room, and it expecting it to be like gone because it's upstairs, duh, and it wasn't. My mom opened my bedroom door and my room is like full of windows, and expecting them all to be busted just like our living room was and our computer room was, and they weren't. The Lord just put so much protection over those things. And so after Morgan and I covered, certain items in my living room because it was pouring rain, we went outside, ended up actually having to kick the screen door open. My mom, was going to kick it, and Morgan was like, Elizabeth, bust that door open. And said, okay, bam, kicked it right open. And that's, it's crazy to think like you had to kick that open, but it did, like, because we were crawling in and out of it, and there was glass all in it, or used to be, but there was like shards of it still broken from where it'd been broken off. And so like, that wasn't safe for us to be climbing in and out of. Lord still protected, but it wasn't safe at all. So when I crawled out of the door for the first time before I kicked it open, I looked up and there was a man standing across the street in his living room, or what was his living room. We had a 2-story apartment building across the street from us, and the whole top was just like, whoosh, but nobody was hurt. Not a soul was killed. It tells you about God, right? And how much like he really has a plan for each and every one of us. And that's just such a blessing. So then, like, we talked to my aunt and my uncle. They were outside, and we were just, like, again, in shock. And my mom really wanted to get down to my grandma's house, my mama's house. And so Morgan and I decided we're going to climb through the trees, right? Like, that's a grand idea to do. So we started climbing and realized real quick that that wasn't a good idea because there was a power line down, and I almost hit it. Morgan was like, Elizabeth! But even then, like, God protected. And so that was probably around midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. Morgan and I were exhausted. And so we climbed in my aunt's car to try to get some sleep because it had air condition. And I emailed my professors. Was like, here we go. And Mom and Dad were talking. And so we finally all went back in the house. And Mom went upstairs to lay down in her room. I went to lay down in my room. Morgan slept with me that night, or for what sleep we did get. And then it just kept raining and raining and raining. And I had recently, the song that had come up in my life was Praise You in the Storm by Natalie Grant. And I know that there's another group that does it, but the way that Natalie Grant does it, it just shocks me. I just love it. She's just phenomenal. And so, one of the things that she says in like the first verse is, I was sure by now, God, you would have, no, let's see, how does it start? I'm sorry. But anyways, sorry, my brain is like fried right now at this moment, but she talks about, I say amen, and it's still raining. And it literally was in my house. We heard tit, 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 and then I know, I give you great sound effects, right? But we heard all of that, like, in our house. You don't normally hear those things in your house. And, there was a fear of, oh gosh, is like my ceiling above me about to cave in over my head? Because at 4 o'clock that morning, I heard, bam! That's literally the noise. And I text Dad, and I'm like, was that the living room? And he was like, no, it was the remainder of the kitchen. Okay, I'm coming. Get up, put my boots on, my rain boots, and head to the kitchen. And there it is, all on the floor. because of the water. It just kept coming, and it had hit the ceiling fans. That's what caused the really loud racket. And I went back to bed, and still like, God, please, please. And if anybody knows me, you know that I am not Elizabeth when I don't have sleep. Not nice. And I know that's a weakness. Like, the Lord has revealed that to me. So in order to fix it, we just sleep, right? I hadn't had sleep. I had 45 minutes of sleep before this all happened. And so I was like, God, like, what am I going to do? Like, are my bookshelves going to fall off of my shelf and hit me? Like, because where my bed is, I have bookshelves, or had bookshelves, on the wall. So I was like, are those things going to fall off and hit me? My dog was sleeping on the floor. Morgan was sound asleep, which was good. She needed to sleep. And my mom was upstairs trying to sleep. My dad did not sleep. He was in the den, and he definitely did not sleep. And then all of a sudden, I remember waking up 2 hours later. And I woke up, and I had my phone, and it was just blowing up. And I remember being on the phone, with my friend Scott, who is my French professor. He gives me lessons every week, which has been such a blessing in and of itself. But he texted me, and he was like, hey, I saw the news. Everything okay? And I called him. I was like, can I call you? And he called me. And he was like, everything okay? And I was like, we're fine, but my house is not. And right about that time, I heard bam. And I was like, something else was falling in. Hang on. And I went into Morgan's room, and it had fallen in. The rest of it had. Speaking of people, I'm going to stop here for just a moment and talk about people. Wow. What a community. What a blessing. I don't remember all who I talked to that night, but I do remember one conversation specifically. My cousin Emily, and come to find out later on, God used that conversation in mighty, mighty ways. And we have grown up together, and wow, is she just a blessing to my heart and my life. And I love her. I love all of my family very, very, very dearly. All of them. Every single member of my family. Y'all hear that very clearly. I adore each of you. And I'm so blessed by your presence, and that God gave you as my family. I would not have asked for anything different. But in that moment, that conversation with Emily was just like, God just used it. And he does. Even the hard moments, like I've talked about some pretty hard things in this short video of no sleep. Some of the realities that we were facing at that moment. And yet God used a little moment with people. Hear that crow? But God used that moment with people, which was so incredible. I mean, and the phone calls started flooding in, and the text messages starting flooding in, and my pastor rode in a sheriff's car all night to get to us. At 5 o'clock in the morning, he shows up at my home, front door. I wake up the next morning, and my yard is full of people from Noonan Utilities, which is where my dad works. Just so much love from people. And I'll talk more about that, but seeing the love of Christ through people was very, very, very evident. And I don't think we'll ever be able to thank the people that helped us. But I will start my next video. The reason why I'm telling you this, one of the reasons is so I know where to pick up and you're not having to hear the same thing over and over and over again. But I'll start my next video with Miss Betsy and how she blessed our family that morning.